I'm excited to be here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank Ivy for inviting me to share with you today. So again, I'm really sorry for the delay, but you know, that's kind of the way business works sometimes, right? So you just have to work your way around it. All right, so now what I'd like to do is just, I want to tell you a little bit about Ivy and how I've been working with them. And so I met Ivy probably, oh gosh, it was sometime last year, because a few of my clients wanted to try out a different project management tool from the one that they had been using. I have design clients on multiple platforms. And Ivy, I'll tell you, the thing that really attracted them was it was beautiful. So it was beautiful and it was easy to use. And as you know, as really busy designers, that is super important. So of course, when my clients are coming to me and saying, hey, Michelle, here's a new platform, you know, a project management tool designed primarily for interior designers, will you check it out? Well, sure, I'm going to go check it out. And I just have to say that, you know, from my own perspective, being able to reach out and talk to Ivy, talk to some of the different people that work there. I've talked to them about accounting. I've talked to them about flow and all kinds of things, and they've all just been super, super helpful. So stay on with me to the end, and you'll get some special opportunities to work with Ivy if you haven't before. But I just really want to thank you for having me join today. Okay, here we go. You've waited long enough, right? So I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Michele Williams, and I'm the owner of Scarlet Thread Consulting. I started my business a few years ago doing consulting primarily. I started my trek into entrepreneurship back in 2000. I've had an interior fabrication company doing custom window treatments, bedding, soft furnishings for 17 years. So to say I understand the industry, you know, it really doesn't even need to be said. I've worked in it in all aspects. I've created magazines, webinars, owned a school, sold a school. So I've done a lot of things that have helped me really kind of understand the interior design from beginning to end, as well as custom window treatments and all aspects of that. So one of the things that I am most known for is pricing, and that is because pricing is just a bear if you don't get it right. So I want to also just kind of alleviate a little stress and with true transparency, tell you that the information that I'm going to share with you today is information where I pretty much screwed up and got it wrong, and then figured out how to get it right. I think the best teachers are the teachers that share with you from experience, not just from information in a book. And so with that, I just want to, you know, just clear the deck so that there's no question that you can ask that has not been asked before. I can promise you that. So no embarrassment. We're here to learn and to make things better. So what I want to do is start by talking about the 5 mistakes that we usually make with pricing. And the first one I would tell you is a lack of confidence. I see this a lot. People ask me, how should I price? How should I price? And so instead of knowing how they should price, they're busy looking at how everybody around them prices. So what that means is because they don't know all the building blocks of how they created their numbers, whatever that number is or that strategy is, the minute a client pushes on you and says, wait, why are you charging me that? Isn't that double dipping? I thought you charged me this. That's too much. What if I can get it here? When we go in and we price without confidence, it causes a huge issue. Our confidence that we don't know what we have to offer and who we are, we don't know what sets us apart, all of those things come in and just really crash your ability to be able to price in a way that is fair and reasonable, both for you and for your client. The second mistake that I see is not knowing your break-even number. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so I did view a couple of your questions at the bottom of the screen before we came in the middle of my technological crazy. And I'll say this to you. If we know the lowest amount that we have to make to be able to stay in business, keep the doors open, keep the lights on, keep the staff paid, and pay ourselves a salary, if we know what that number is, then we will price to make sure that we cover that at a minimum. If not, and we start just pricing to get the job, Sometimes you can actually get the job and lose money, and that is not helpful. I see a lot of people that have a fear of looking at the numbers and looking into the numbers and then understanding them. If I hear this once a day, I probably hear it 10 times a day. Michelle, I'm creative. I just want to design. I just want to do pretty things. I just want to build buildings. I really don't want to have to deal with the numbers. But I'm here to tell you that the companies, the businesses that survive and that make it are the ones that look at the numbers and not just look at them, they understand them, and they have a team to help them analyze them. So not knowing that number also doesn't let you know when you're losing money. How do you know when you're losing money? See, it is possible to be able to make money on a product but lose money in the company. And I see it all the time. Not controlling expenses, not looking at expenses, not understanding that, you know, going to get your nails done or something is really not a business expense. And so bringing that, taking that money out of the company and then not really knowing what you're looking at because it's not necessarily a true representation of the business numbers. So that is one of the really, if I could tell you there was probably anything, I would say not knowing your numbers is one of the biggest. Because if you know the numbers and know what they represent, you will do things differently. The next mistake that I see in my coaching practice is the inability to address changing cost or selections. So what's so interesting about this one is, number one, you know, there are things that change in the industry, such as, oh gosh, just gas prices, right? So when you're selling any product that's petroleum based, you're going to be impacted. Shipping and handling will be impacted. When the cotton industry got hit a few years ago, we were hit terribly when it comes to selling any kind of fabric or anything that was cotton based. We've had it happen in my 18 years with the silk industry. So if, number one, if we don't understand the changes that are industry related that would affect us, we're going to be in trouble because we may be pricing with yesterday's prices. I even remember one time quoting something that had foam in it, and by getting it quoted, offering it to my client, and by the time I purchased the foam the next day, it had already doubled in price, and every profit I had was out the door. So we have to really watch what is happening. Not only that, you know, pricing for those that we buy from varies throughout the year. They do not always have a static price from January to December. So if we're not updating our pricing and the way that we are working while we're working with other people, we're going to get caught. Also, the inability to address this with our client. What happens is, I see this quite often, designers don't want to go back and address it. And so because they don't address it, they spend more time trying to find an alternative. And then that's time that they don't feel like they can bill. And they're caught in this cycle of not knowing how to handle it and losing money at every turn. Mistake number 4, your competition is setting your prices. I hear, this designer charges this designer charges that. Should I be charging that? Well, you know what? The answer is not a definite yes, and it's not a definite no. It's a maybe. Truly, if we are, not that we're not to be market conscious, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't know what our competition is doing. We absolutely should. But our pricing should be built on our business model. See, here's the thing. I could copy the pricing of another business, of my competition. But if I'm not managing that business the same way, I can lose my shirt. So it's not enough to know how they're charging. You also have to know how they're streamlining. You have to know what their project management's like, what their systems are like. Are they able to make money at that? And just because somebody's charging something doesn't mean they're making money. Trust me, I look at a lot of profit and loss statements and a lot of balance sheets. And just because you see beautiful pictures on Instagram and in magazines does not mean that everybody is making a killing and bringing home 6 or 7 figures. Some very well may be, but I can promise you that some are not, because I see it. So don't let the competition set your prices. And mistake number 5 is when you don't understand the buying habits of your customer. So what do I mean by that? I saw some questions at the bottom having to do with my clients shopping around me, or the clients online, or they're comparing this to this, and it happens all the time. Our world has changed where everything, for the most part, I mean, not to say there aren't some trade-only resources, but there are a lot of our vendors that are putting their products out on the internet, or there are a lot of companies that have moved to online only and are selling the same products that you're selling. So really what you need to do is focus on understanding their habits, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But if you don't understand what they're making their buying decisions on, what are they thinking about, when do they want to have it done, what's important to them, if you are not focusing on any of that, you're going to run into trouble with your pricing, because you won't be able to price enough to cover all the crazy running around and work that you're going to need to do. Okay, so now what? We've talked about the 5 mistakes that we see, and I can bet you all, if you were to look into your business, you may not be doing these now, but I bet you at some point, if you've been in business for any amount of time, you can go back and see where when you created your pricing, you had a lack of confidence. That I see it, right? And you know you see it too. You create the invoice and then you think, oh my goodness, they're not going to pay for that. I'm going to reduce my hours. I'm going to reduce my fee. I'm not going to charge shipping and handling. I think I'll knock that down a little bit, because you're not confident in saying it is what it is. I bet if you go back and think about it, you know, there are some of you that either today or at some point are not able to tell me, here are what my gross sales are today. Michelle, I can tell you right now, this is what I need to make every month to keep the lights on. This is what I need to make in a gross profit, not just in total sales, because total sales doesn't run the company. Gross profit runs the company. If you can't tell yourself and tell your team or understand, this is what I need to make every month. This is what I need to make on average every week, every day, every quarter. This is what I need on this job to be able to know that I'm making money and covering, you know, all of my vendors' fees and all of my overhead. Then you need to stop and we need to go take a look at that. If you are not able and can find in your business where you've not addressed changing cost, or you didn't watch and you didn't look, or the expectations changed and you didn't address them, I'll tell you, if you don't address it quickly, it is painful to go back. Painful. The 4th, I bet again that your competition for some of you is setting prices. Because of that lack of confidence, you're not able to set the prices that you know you need to stay in business. And so you're using somebody else's and irritated. Or you don't understand, what's my customer really buying, first of all? And second of all, what are their habits? What's making them buy from me? So now what we're going to do is I'd like to shift our focus from all the negative, and let's shift to the positive on what we can do to solve this, okay? I promise you, if you have 1 or 2 or 5 of these, you're not alone. I promise you. Okay, so our first solution is to establish confidence in your pricing. How do you do that? Okay, the first thing you need to do is sit down and spend some time with your numbers. And so what that means is you've got to sit down and really be able to identify what is important to you for your business. You know, who are you? Why are you here? What do you have to give the client? One of my, I guess, quotes that you could say, I was actually talking to my own business coach about it this morning in my coaching time. Not only do I coach others, but I invest in that for myself. And I told her, I said, you know, I always try to create pricing, and I've done this for 18 years, so that I can serve the socks off my client. My goal is just to just serve them and to love them and to take care of them and to support them. So my pricing has to reflect that. If you were purchasing something for $5, your expectation of a $5 product is very different than a $5,000 product. And so knowing not only the level of product that you're giving, but the level of service that you're giving, what you want to provide to that customer, and truly understanding that sales and marketing, we're not just selling our clients stuff. We are selling them a feeling or an expectation. And what is that feeling or expectation worth? What is it that we're really doing to their life? How are we really impacting them in a bigger way? And if we can articulate that and communicate and understand that, then we can price that. But we're not just selling them a piece of furniture or a case good or a piece of art. We are selling them beauty. We are selling them success. We are selling them the ability to bring people into their home and to have community and rest and relaxation and hope and new life. Those are the things we're selling them, and that's what we have to price. But we have to be able to understand it and embrace it on this side of the desk so that you can share it across the desk with your client. So I would challenge each of you on the webinar to stand back and ask yourself, what am I selling? What is it that I'm really, really doing? And when you know that, you will be able to go out with confidence and stand on your prices. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be inflexible. It doesn't mean you're not going to have some points of negotiation, but you're going to have a true understanding now of what you're negotiating. You're also going to have an understanding of where you're willing to budge and where you're not, because you know who you are and you know what you deliver to that perfect client. Okay? Solution number 2 is to know your numbers. This little pig, I have her on my desk. I don't know if you'll see her when we cut back to live video. But in my business, I've named her Penelope Pig. So if you follow me on Instagram or any other place, you may see some of my clients who take their pictures with Penelope Pig. But here's the deal. Every business owner, if you truly own your business, you need to know your numbers. I will tell you, for those that I work with, the big challenge is for them to own it. And that doesn't mean we just own the pieces and parts that are fun and interesting, such as, you know, the designing and the beautiful decorations and all the things that we do that we're passionate about and we love, but that we own the messy parts, we own the hard parts. And so knowing your numbers falls into that. Now, what do I mean by knowing your numbers? First is knowing what it takes to keep your business open. So that would be really understanding all of the operational expenses that are necessary, okay, to run. The second is to understand how much you're selling and what the difference is. What are your margins? What are your markups? Do they support where you're going? Is it actually a reflection of the job that you do, right? For some people, they may, let's say, mark up 20% on a product. That may be a reflection of the service they give. Somebody else can mark up 75%, and that could be a reflection of the service that they give or the product that they offer. So you really have to be able to know what your numbers are, to know how they support you or don't support you. You also need to know the lowest amount that you can make on a job to come out, if nothing else, at a $0, meaning you don't have to pay to serve your client. If I could tell you anything, it's this. We are in a luxury market, and we need to make peace with the fact that we're in a luxury market. And when you're in a luxury market, things cost, okay? So it is not our place, because we don't know our numbers, to reduce what we're being paid to put beautiful things in someone's fourth home. That's just ridiculous. Right? So the goal here, if we are doing this as a business and we are owning it, we're going to know our numbers. We're going to know if our cost of goods goes up this month or down this month. We're going to know how it compares to the quarter, to the year, how it compares to our yearly goals. What are our expenses? We're going to know if we are saving our money properly. It's not enough to bring in the money. It has to be managed. I have a Passion for Profit course, and one of the things we talk about there is the profit first methodology. Is we take your numbers and we determine how much goes to salary, how much goes to covering federal, state taxes or any other tax burden, how much stays in the company as profit, how much goes to operational expenses. So it's knowing your numbers and then managing them. That's what puts you in control. So I'll tell you this, many designers, you know, they're commenting to me, Michelle, I just don't like the numbers. And I'll tell you, if you can get connected with QuickBooks, if you can get connected with a bookkeeper, if you can get connected with a coach or an accountant or somebody who can help you really dig in and understand your numbers, and when you see how they fit together to get you where you want to go, you will start to love them because they now have meaning. I had one designer who told me that she wanted to put all the numbers in the closet and shut the door and not peek in. And now she's starting to bring the numbers into the light, and she's understanding it, and she's rocking it. I actually just did an analysis of her financials yesterday, and she had set a goal for the entire year, an income goal. She's, I think, what, $3,000 to $4,000 away from meeting her yearly goal, and that's through the end of May. And that is because she watched it and she went after it and she knew what she was looking for. So if you don't know how to do that, find somebody to help you really dig in and know your numbers. Okay, solution number 3, understand and address changing costs and needs immediately. So notice the last word, immediately. The minute something goes wrong, goes south, goes off the rails, get to your client and give them a chance to help you redirect the process. I see a lot of times embarrassment. They don't know how to say it. It's going to cost more. It's going to cost less. Just go in and have the conversation. A quick, open, honest conversation with a client who already knows you and likes you and trusts you will be appreciated. I'll also tell you sometimes it means the costs have to go up. And so it is up to you as the business owner to really understand where that impacts you and where it impacts your client. Sometimes you may choose to absorb those rising costs as the cost of doing business, and sometimes they may need to be, sent back to the client with approval to continue. I'll tell you where I see this biting people, and that is with flat fees. Now, I have clients that do every type of fee structure that you can do. And this goes back to that very first solution on confidence. I support you, and I would support my clients doing any type of fee structure if you're confident in it. If I were to tell you that you had to do flat rates and you really felt like you needed to do hourly, you wouldn't be confident setting up a flat rate, managing it. You're going to fail. So I might as well let you do what you feel comfortable doing and help you do it to the best of your ability. So always choose a pricing structure and a model that fits you, that fits the way you do sales, that fits the way you keep up with information. Now, flat rates work really, really well for some of my other clients, and it's because they have already determined the input to that flat rate fee, meaning they already know how much time they're going to spend on that, and they're managing it and they're watching it. Flat rate doesn't mean that you don't keep up with your time. It means that you manage your time to get it done within, a certain amount so that you can make money, because the minute you go over, you lose. It means setting tight boundaries so that they don't get to have 14 revisions in the family room. They get 1 revision. So understanding all of that and being able to address it immediately to create boundaries where they're needed, all of that fits your pricing. The minute you're outside your boundaries, or the minute you don't price it right, or you don't tell the client when something has shifted or changed or an understanding, usually it's us as the business owner that takes that hit, and we usually get hit right in the wallet with that. Solution 4, create your own pricing structure with your value statement. Okay, this ties again back into the confidence. Know what you're selling. Know what sets you apart. See, if your client knows that you start the conversation with, you know what, there are many of these pieces that you will be able to find online, and some you may even find at a lower cost. But here's the deal. You don't know which pieces to go get. You don't know what to pull together. That's what I know. And if you buy it on your own, just know that you're going to have to deal with it. So if there are any issues, any damage, it is all yours to deal with. If you hire me as your project manager, as the one that is creating this lovely, beautiful space for you, I manage it. I take it off your shoulders. Isn't that peace of mind worth blank? It's creating the value that they're buying more from you from a product. If they think they're only buying a product from you, okay, then that's all they're going to buy, and price is going to always be an issue. So really understand the value that you bring, your differentiator, what sets you apart, what makes you unique, be able to articulate that to your client. That's what you can sell them that your competition cannot. They'll have their own value statement. It'll be different. And solution 5, intimately understand your client's buying habits. Okay, clients buy in different ways. So some buy based on relationship. There are really 4 different buying types, right? So one is relationship. What that means is they like the people. That really a big part of the know, like, trust. They want to buy from a specific person. So your prices could be a little higher, a little lower, but they're buying because they know you. You know, there are places that I go and that I spend my money, and I know that I'm spending more, but I do it because I know the business owner and because I like them and I want to support them. And so, you know, that's a relationship buying. I just keep going back and buying from them regardless. That's a really great way that you can maintain your client. It costs you 7 times more to get a new client than to keep an existing client. So when you find that client who is a relationship buyer, cultivate the relationship. Give them what they need. I'm not talking about being their best friend. I'm not talking about crossing boundaries, but I'm talking about staying top of mind, of letting them know that this buying relationship is important. So understanding that that's what they buy on will serve you well. The second type of buyer is a price buyer. That means that they really don't care as much about value or quality. It's about a price. They have a number, and that number matters to them. Okay, so they are buying strictly on price. I will tell you, in the design field, that is really hard to work around. If it's all about price, then it's going to be a struggle. But you need to know if that's the kind of client that you're talking to. The third type of buyer is a value buyer. And that buyer buys on value, real or perceived. So they may want to buy a car based on the prestige of the car. They may want to buy a meal based on what it costs to get in, and do they need reservations. So look at their buying habits. If they are buying based on what they value, then if you come in as the designer and you value the same things, you're going to be able to sell to them. See, what happens quite often is we as designers, we value maybe quality, we value project management. We know what we bring to the table in regards to service and excellence. But if we have not articulated and we have not truly described that to our client so that they understand what we're doing on their behalf, and we're doing all of it behind the scenes, then it almost seems like we're not doing anything to them, like it's easy, like we're just playing in the pretty. And as you all know, working in an interior design business, the pretty part might be 20%. After we design and after we've made a few choices, the hard work, I mean, it's a lot of work to run these businesses. You all know that. And so if our client isn't aware of everything we're doing behind the scenes and what it takes for us to do that on their behalf, they may not appreciate the value that we do. Now, I'm not talking about in the sales process banging it over their head, but let me tell you about my value. But I will tell you this, if you can sell your client on trusting you, on respecting your decision making and why they brought in a professional, and if you can sell them on the value of working with you and almost standing back and letting you work your magic, if you can sell that, price will not be the leading factor. Price will always be secondary. But the minute you go into any buying or sales transaction and you lead with price, it becomes about price. So I always try to lead with value and then have a discussion about price, because by that point, they want what you have to offer. The price is not going to be overwhelming. But if you start with the number and they don't really know everything that it encompasses, it feels like too much. Okay, so you need to know that. Now, the fourth type of buyer, and these are the ones that I run from, and I have worked long and hard to be able to try to identify them, and they're the poker players. So the poker players are the ones that want to come in and they want to negotiate and they want to push back, and I've seen it here and I've done it here, and they may not even buy. They may not even engage. But when you walk away from interaction with them, you literally feel like you have been beaten. And I just would suggest that you not go that route. If you know that, unless you like the game and you're willing to lose, walk away. And the easiest way to walk away is just say, what you're looking for and what my business has to offer do not align. In other words, you want cheap and fast and, you know, whatever, and that's not how I work. and just say it. Just say, we're not in alignment here. And I think there would be another business that might be able to support what you're looking for the way you want to do it. So here's what we've covered on our solutions. Establish confidence in your pricing. That confidence comes from knowing how your pricing was created, knowing what your competitors charge, and knowing who you are and what you really have to deliver. And then having it in a system and a process that supports you. The second is knowing your numbers. That means knowing them intimately, not being afraid to look at them. Listen, just because you don't look at them doesn't mean that it's not happening. It doesn't mean that it's not going on. It is super important to keep whatever accounting system you have, Sage, Xero, QuickBooks, whatever, to keep it updated. It's not enough to just run it in a bank account and run it on your credit card, but to pull all of the accounts together to really manage it, super, super important. Understand and address changing cost or changing selections and do it immediately. Do not be fearful of changing cost and changing expectations if everything around it is changing, okay? You don't have to keep going like you were before. Create your own price structure with a value statement. Know what sets you apart. If you know that, I promise you, if any of you have ever heard of Simon Sinek and his book, Start With Why, oh my goodness, highly recommend. Even if you don't have time to read the book, go out and look under YouTube. It's like 18, 20 minutes. It's a TED Talk. Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, and then look at Start With Why. He is so accurate when he says that when we can identify why we do what we do, so what is your belief statement in business? And when you can define that and you can live it and breathe it and understand it, other people will come along and they'll want to be part of that with you. That's one of the very first things I do when I coach is, what is your why? Why do you do what you do? Let's create a statement around it, because if you believe it, other people will believe it. And that's part of creating that value. So highly recommend, if you've not done that, that would just be a beautiful gift to yourself today, is that those 20 minutes to go do that. And then lastly, again, understand your clients, understand their buying habits. So let me tell you a good way to go about doing this. I don't think I told you a minute ago. What I like to do is there are two types of buyers I like to work with. I like to work with value buyers, and I like to work with relationship buyers. I will work with price buyers if they pay my price, but I'm not willing to work down to their price. So if they're willing to pay my price, that's fine, I'll work with them. Otherwise, I work primarily with value and relationship, which means that if you see over to the right-hand side, I saw some people making comments about having worked with me before. I value those people. I value anybody who spends money with me. I value anybody who shares a dream or a hope with me. I think that is really important, and your clients value you, okay? They think you're super important. So if you can think of your ideal perfect client, let's say that bought based on a relationship with you, you've done 3 rooms in their house, they don't even think to call another designer, they're gonna call you to do the next 3 rooms. If you think about your relationship with that particular client, write questions that you can ask in the interview process really, really early on to determine if your potential client that you're talking to could fall into the same category. So create behavioral questions that you can ask, that will tell you, are they a price buyer? Are they value, or do they care about relationships? And you can come up with those questions and immediately start weeding potential clients out to go, you're not going to be a fit. And so I'm not going to force myself to work with you and you to work with me when, a little bit down the line, this may not be beneficial or advantageous for both of us. All right. So don't be afraid to do that, because anytime you have the wrong client, it's going to get you. So here's what I've seen. If a job goes wrong, it's usually a result of one of these 4 things: either the wrong client, the wrong product or service, the wrong expectations or boundaries, or the wrong price. Notice I didn't put wrong price as the very first thing. Usually that might be the thing that they wave the flag on, but it's usually because there was already something that wasn't aligning at the very beginning for you to be able to work with them. So think back to when you felt like you didn't get paid appropriately, or when you hated the job, or when things are going wrong, and I want you to identify for yourself, Is it the right client or the wrong client? If it's the right client, then that means that it's going to, go further down to see where the issue was. But if it's the wrong client, I should have known all they wanted was cheap, 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 and I don't have cheap. They wanted to do price. They want to shop around me. They don't understand my value. I would tell you that's probably the wrong client or wrong expectations, okay? So work your way down and think about that. But every one of these is solvable. It really is. Knowing who you're, not to say, listen, that some wrong clients can't come through. But if we know, and I've done this too, if I know at the beginning that I'm going to start working with somebody and I'm not right for them and they're not right for me, and I get that kind of that gut reaction and I kind of push it back and think I'm going to do it anyway, it gets me every time. And I bet it gets you too. Start to cultivate that intuitiveness with regard to your clients and your products and your service. And when your gut speaks to you, stop and listen to it. Every time I've pushed my down and told my inner self, oh, come on, Michelle, you can help, or you can do this, or it's not a big deal, almost every single time it comes back. I had a client this week who did something, gratis for a client. She did it for free. And then she got chewed up because she did something for free, where she would have never been chewed up if she just not done it. And so, really stop and listen to your gut when it talks to you, because over time, you'll be able to trust it, right? Let's see, what's at the bottom? How to compete when customers can make purchases online cheaper than you can provide from showroom, plus free shipping and no restocking charges. Dee Dee asked that. The way that I would do that is, again, to understand your value. And I think this is where you need to have a discussion with your client up front at the very beginning that says, here is what I'm offering for you, and you can't shop around me. Or you ask them, do you plan to do your own shopping? And then you have to see how that fits for you. If it fits, then let them shop, and then create your pricing structure to make the money where you're doing everything else. So this one really, you could go either way. This is a probably a price client. And so if you want them to work with you, you need to find a way to do it. But if you do not offer for them to go shop around you, then you just tell them our businesses aren't aligned. But you get to own this. You get to control this. I can't walk into the steakhouse and order a steak and a salad and tell them I'm going to bring in my own tomatoes because I got them out of my backyard and I think they're luscious and yummy. That's just not the way it works. They're going to tell me, this is what you do and this is how you do it. You buy the full salad for me. And if I take the tomatoes off, I didn't reduce the price of your salad. Okay? So just, you get to set up your business. You get to own it and control it. And that's what I would say to that. Okay. The next question is, let's see, I think that is from John. It says, I currently mark up 25% on products I resell to my clients, all stated in my contract. I recently spoke with an old boss of mine who has been in the industry many years. He told me if I'm not profiting at least 40% off every job, hourly and markups, I should close my doors. What are your recommended markups? Construction of products. I currently do 10% on construction and 25% on product. He recommended raising both of these 5 to 8% more and my hourly fee. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. I don't like to do coaching malpractice. And what coaching malpractice means is I don't know what all of your numbers look like to be able to tell you. But I will tell you this. On average, what I see is around 15 to 20% markup on service. So that would be your construction. And I see anywhere for a healthy company, I would say 35 to 45%, not including shipping and handling on product. It could be more and it could be less. Here's the truth of the matter. When you go and you're working with a client, it's about being very open and honest. And I believe that the best way to do that is to be transparent with your pricing. Here's what I do. Here's the value that you're getting. Here's what you're saving off MSRP. However you create that value statement. I do think in some ways your numbers could be on the lower side. So, you've got to ask yourself, is your business running the way you need it to run? When I'm looking at a profit and loss statement, if it is a wholesale business only that has low cost of goods, my goal is to keep the cost of goods at 20 to 30%, which gives us somewhere between a 70 and 80% gross profit. If you are a COGS-driven business, which most of you designers are, then my goal would be to get your gross profit at a minimum of 40%, if not 50% of total sales. So if your gross profit is in the 10 to 15% of total sales, then that's low. So I really have to look at a full profit and loss statement to tell you specifically. But I can say that your numbers are on the lower side of what I see of a company that is financially healthy and able to grow. See, we're not just pricing for today, we're pricing for tomorrow. We're pricing to grow. We're pricing to move forward, not just to hold on by our fingernails and maintain. Okay. Okay, we have another question from Book. I recently switched from fixed fee to an hourly rate of $125. Am I too high? Am I too low? How do I know? I charge the same rate for everything. Should there be a lower design research rate? Also, I do not charge markup and use the client savings on materials as a value-add selling feature. Am I selling myself short? Okay, so this is the way I would answer that. Maybe. And I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but let me tell you why I say that. Again, I'm going to speak in broad terms, because if I were to give you, here's what you should absolutely do without looking at your entire business, that's not fair to you. Anybody who does that is not being fair to you. But I will tell you this. First of all, if you don't mark up anything on product and you're only charging an hourly rate, you will always be a slave to time, which means that if you don't work, you don't get paid. And that means that all of your income is active income, no passive income. Some of the healthiest businesses have a combination of active and passive income. Passive income is markup on product, okay? So I do think that both are good. If you choose to have an hourly rate only business and you ask me, is 125 too high or too low? Here's what I would say. That's dependent on the area of the country. In some areas of the country, maybe in New York City, you could double that. If you're in, I don't know, maybe lower Georgia, you might need to reduce that. So a lot of it has to do with where you live and what the cost of living is and what the expectations are. Here's the way that I always look at it. If you get somebody to pay that amount, if you tell them it's 125 and they say okay and they pay it, then you're charging okay. It's too low when your pipeline is filled and everybody says yes. If you have people that are on the waiting list to work with you for 2, 3, 6 months, then you need to do a couple of things. You probably can raise your prices, and you need to streamline your business so that you can get your work done. So, it could be too high, it could be too low based on where you are. I would say that if you're still the one doing the design research as well as doing the design, I would have the rate the same. If you are choosing to have a design assistant or somebody that doesn't have the same level of education, knowledge, and experience, you can let them have a lower rate. But I wouldn't change my rate because I was doing something for somebody. It's still the same me who's showing up to do the work. And in the great big thing, in the great big scope, it's important. Okay, so you're telling me you're in DC. I would tell you that is probably on the lower end of the prices. But it also has to do with how long you've been in business and what your expertise is and what level of the market you're serving. Every market has a level. Think about cars. You used to be what? Yugo and Saturn and Honda, and you can go all the way up. I live up next to Maserati and Lamborghini. And that's very different than a Saturn or Honda. So the same thing in the design field, there are different levels. If your value and your service is worth $125 an hour, then you're probably right. But if you're serving a client and they are on the highest end of the high and you're doing it for $125 and not marketing a product, you might be taking advantage of yourself. Okay, so it really is very individualized on how I would answer that. Okay, let me scroll down. Laura asks, is charging by the square foot for finished selections in new construction projects a good way to estimate the project? I've seen anywhere from $1.75 to $3.50 a square foot in our industry. Okay, so here's the deal. That really comes up to almost being like a flat rate. What everybody has to know, and it can work. I have a client who's doing that, a coaching client who does by square foot. She has 1 square foot rate based on the build of new construction, and she has another square foot rate based on putting all the beautiful things, so the furnishings plan for the home. So there are two different plans. And it depends. She has the rate vary. She has like 3 ways that they can work with her, based on how much she's selecting and choosing and what is expected. But again, here's what goes into any pricing, whether it's hourly, whether it's per the job, flat fee, square footage, it doesn't matter. You have to have a good understanding of what you're bringing to the project. You have to have a good understanding of how much time it's going to take and how much you need to make. To come up with a square footage, you have to know this is the value I'm bringing, this is the scope of work, here's how much I need to make, and here's how many hours I think it's going to take. And then you add all of that together and divide it by the square footage, and that's how you figure out what your rate is. And so if you're not doing that and keeping up with all those pieces and parts, you can lose your shirt. But if you're keeping up with it, you can make money. It's true with any type of pricing. That's why I said I work with clients that do every type. My goal is to help them understand what it means for them and for their business. Because again, I could tell you 350 is perfect. You could lose money if you're not managing it. Somebody else can make money. So it really comes down to what you're doing, how you manage it, and understanding every input into your pricing. Does that make sense? Do you upcharge on discounts you receive as a pro? That's another question by Dee Dee. Okay, so that really comes down to how you choose to price in your company. I have some who, if they take a discount, so let's say that they get a 20% discount, they just hold on to that as their markup, so they don't then mark it up again. And then I have some that they take discount and mark it up higher. So what they might say is, whatever the lowest prices I get, it's then marked up 45%. So that really comes down to how you're choosing to make your money. But I would say this: transparency is key, and be consistent. If you tell your client you're going to mark something up, mark it up. There should be no reason that any of us feel like we're hiding what we're making. Anytime, and I'm not saying you got to go, give all your money secrets out to all your clients or show them your profit and loss statement. But they should know how they're being charged, whether it's hourly or markup or whatever you're doing. And you should tell them if you're going to be holding on to discounts or passing along discounts, whatever you choose to do. Because if you don't, and you feel like you're hiding something, and they feel like you're hiding something, or ever get shifty, you've broken no like trust, and now you've lost confidence in your pricing. And when you lose confidence in your pricing, they lose confidence in you. So it's just better not to do that. I'll tell you, if you don't know what you're doing and how you're charging when you walk into that client, it is like blood in the water to sharks swimming around you. And so it will get you every single time. So spend some time to step back and really just be confident in how you're going to do that. Okay. How do you charge clients when traveling out of state? The client flew me out to another state to spend a couple of days. I see this often. Reviewing a few items. One of the days I only spent 2 hours with the client. Do I charge my full rate for the entire day since I wasn't able to get any additional work done? Mark, that's your question. Okay, so what I would do, I would ask them up front. First, I would have a rate to travel. I usually have a travel time rate, which is a reduced rate of my hourly rate, whatever that would be. And then I charge full day rates. Because even when I get asked to travel for speaking engagements, they may only want me to speak for an hour. Their seminar may be an hour long. They pay me for a full day and travel. Because like you, I can't work for anybody else during that time. My time is blocked for me to travel to get there, to travel to get home. So I would suggest you institute a day rate and that you agree to that rate prior to travel. So here's the travel rate, travel time rate, and then here is the day rate. And get agreement on that before you go. How do I increase the hourly fee and markup on current clients? Oh, Marlene, great question. Okay, so first and foremost, I would tell you that if you're under contract with any client, you need to continue to work out that contract exactly like you stated at the beginning. Then what I would do is at this point, if you know that something is not suitable for where you want to go with your hourly or your markup, go ahead and mark it up for the next client. So that means the next client that you're talking to, they get the new rate. I wouldn't go back to the one that you're currently working on. Finish out what you've said. Then what you can do is, we call it a bridge program. If they ask you to now let's come in and do, let's say, the the family room. We've done this room, let's go do the next room. Then you can say to them, okay, here's the new cost, right? Or you can have it and then half it again. So usually we would go in and just say, here's the new rates for the new room. But I would not mark up for the client that you're currently under contract for. Question, when establishing value up front, could that be a reason to skip the initial consult fee? Brooke, thank you for that question. I don't think so at all, because I would say that when I have an initial consult, there's still value that's being produced. And that value is determined if we can work together, to determine the scope of work, to determine. So even if you walk away after that initial consult, they have some type of value, right? They have something, at least an idea in their mind of what true scope of work is. So to me, if you're pulling me out of where I'm working or what I'm doing to have a conversation with you outside of a 10-minute phone conversation, I would still charge for the consult fee. Do I have any examples of questions to see if your client aligns with you? That, Joanne, I would ask questions like, tell me when you purchased something really large and how you went through the decision-making process. Tell me, see, very behavioral. It's almost like when you're interviewing to go work for a company. Tell me who makes the decisions in your family. How do you and your husband work together to do this? I would just start asking those kinds of questions. It looks like you've worked with 6 other designers. Tell me about that relationship. I mean, if they've worked with 6 designers, they're not relationship buyers. I know that. So then I start to find out, okay, you're not relationship. So is it price or value? What is it that you're looking for? Let's see. Please repeat the person on YouTube. Simon Sinek, SIMON-SINEK. Let's see. I posted as a comment to someone's post below. I'm curious about why you recommend sharing markup information. We are retailers, and this is part of our business. No other retailer is expected to share markup information. So here's the deal. If you have a storefront and you're that type of a retailer, you're right. Nobody ever shares it. But if you are sharing a contract with somebody, and you don't have to. If you can sell it without doing it, that's fine. But I will tell you that most people are going to ask you, how are you marking things up? Because they're so savvy to shop around you. And I do believe that selling to someone in their home, whether we like it or not, is very different than selling from a storefront. It just is. I'm just starting out and would like to know the best resources to help me set my business in motion. What do you recommend? Joanna, I would recommend that you get involved in local community groups for interior designers. I would recommend that, that you could get a business coach, you could take some online courses, you could do all kinds of things like that. But definitely get in community and start looking to see what else is out there. All right, let me scroll back up and see if there were some other questions that have come in to see if I missed anything. Tara, have I missed any questions? If so, I want to make sure I answer them. Let me just look. Answered that one. Okay, here's one. I started pursuing my passion of interior design on the side of my 9-to-5 job. So I have a really hard time focusing on numbers when at this point I'm not totally relying on those numbers to live. However, that's my goal, to have an interior design career be my 9-to-5. What would you suggest to someone like me who is trying to transition in this way? Where do I even start to look at numbers? Katie, that is glorious. I love that. Okay, first of all, I'm super excited that you're doing this on the side and trying. The second thing I'm going to tell you is this. If you can put into your mind the idea that you're going to build your business as if it has to support you, that's already the first step of getting your numbers right. Because if we are working as if we have a safety net, so a husband, spouse, and another job, so we're pricing just to get out the door, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks an hour, we're hurting the industry and we're hurting ourselves, okay? So always price as if it has to support you. Because if you don't, it really damages the industries for those of us who it has to support. Now, we look like gougers or like we're coming in and taking advantage of people. The thing that I would suggest to you is if you don't want to start immediately with QuickBooks, start with at least an Excel spreadsheet and put everything in it. Understand how a basic profit and loss statement is created with total income minus cost of the goods gives you gross profit minus expenses. Start keeping up with all of the costs that it takes to start your business, okay? So that's what you're going to need to do is just start keeping up with the numbers, and then they'll start to make sense. Maybe get a book on small business accounting and look at that. Okay, I do help people start businesses. I have plans that can help you get started and understanding those numbers, but you're able to do some of that on your own that way. All right. Let's see. I'll go real quick and see if I missed anything else. Do I have any suggestions on how to find new clients and to grow? Roxanne, my suggestions are this: you have to market. And when you're marketing the solution that you're bringing to their problem. So you really need to know who you are. You need to know what you have to offer. You need to know who your client is. And then you need to present yourself in a way that solves the problem that they have. So, you know, there are multiple ways to find them. I would say social media marketing, networking, word of mouth is always huge. I still think that's king, even as much as we have Instagram and Pinterest. Anything that is visual in a visual area is going to be what's going to help you. So find where your client is and hang out there. If your client's on an Instagram, then I wouldn't spend my time there. If your client's on Facebook, I'd go to Facebook. So maybe look at the clients you do have and see what they have in common and how they found you, and then push that a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Do I add a margin to subcontractors' rates? So Liz, yes, some of my designers do that. They mark up 15 to 20%, and we call that a management fee because they're the ones that get called when the stain doesn't work. Or they're the one that gets called when, you know, the cabinets don't match up in the corner, not the homeowner. So a lot of people mark up anywhere to 10, 15, 20%. Some of them also, subcontractors, may mark up and then give a design fee or design amount back to the designer. So there are more than one way to do that, but it's customary, and you know, it's not anything that nobody do. I don't charge markup on any of my purchases or other vendors. How would I do this? Do you include this information in your agreement, or do you have everything through your billing and make the receipts reflect the price, including the markup? How do you justify that to your clients? Again, Tess, this goes back to, you know, making sure that your client knows how you're going to charge them. And then if you say, I'm going to charge you with an X markup, put it in the amount, mark it up. Now, I have some of my designers that do not show like the base amount plus the markup. They just show the final price, which I think was one of the other questions. The client just understands that it has been marked up. So, you know, it's up to you. If your clients require and request receipts, you have to decide, is that what your business is willing to provide? Yes or no? And then you get to go from there. A lot of this comes down to you setting the boundaries on how you're going to not only run your company, but handle the financials. When you're charging hourly, do you include your travel time in that hourly time, or is that charged at a different rate? Roxanne, again, that goes back to your contract. Some designers, they count the same rate from the time they leave the door to the time they get there. Some say that it's free travel time within a 50-mile radius, and some charge a reduced rate. So it's really whatever works for you, and just be very clear up front. How do you charge for staging versus designing? Caro, they're very similar, but staging does have multiple differences from, you know, are you having to rent all the stuff, or do you have it already in a warehouse and you bring it in? How long is it there? Does it take it out? So you would just need to make sure that you created a plan that says, here's the scope of services and here's how I charge. How many of my clients use Ivy? I would probably say today, probably 10, and it's growing every day. So I actually got 2 or 3 calls this week about Ivy, and about if they should switch from some of the other platforms that they're on. So I'll probably have at least 10 clients, active clients, that use Ivy and that work with myself, as well as my bookkeeper. I have a bookkeeper, Sherry, who I think may be on here. And we focus primarily on QuickBooks, and then we help our clients with the Ivy integration. And we also do profit first with our clients. So we really dig into all the numbers for our clients to make them successful. So I have quite a few. All right, I'm going to wrap this up and answer a couple more questions, and then I know you all have been on for a while. I'm mostly a retail window treatment specialist in Southern California. Pricing is always a struggle. Does it make sense to charge an hourly rate for research and design as well as 100% markup for materials? Hey, Susie, I know you've had one of my classes. So yes, so here's what I would say. I think that you very much, if you are out doing retail, which you are, and you do research and design, I would have a research fee or a design fee, just like the designer would have for that. And since you can mark it up, if you can mark up 100% on materials, mark up 100%. Most window treatment experts that I see mark up fabric, hardware, and everything 100% if they're doing retail, because they're not selling the ongoing design services in and out. So you could most assuredly do that. Do you transfer calls for storing the client's products with commercial receiver? Yes, I would, Roxanne. If we need to have a receiver to hold things, the client has to pay for that. But that would be in part of the contract, all receiving fees, everything. And I would try to manage it quickly so that we get in and out and things are not, sitting in the receiver for, I don't know, 8 months or something. And most of my clients do not mark up the receiving fees, but they're straight pass-throughs. To say you can, it's just most don't. How can you enforce the markup at the beginning if the clients don't know what their purchasing budget will be? Example, if they have a $50,000 purchasing budget and at the end of construction with unexpected costs, they cut the budget to $30,000. How do you get them to commit to that initial budget and markup? Cindy, a lot of that is going to be going through the process at the whole time. And if they commit to a $50,000 budget and you give it to them and then they come back and don't have it, I would just put everything in front of them and go, okay, so we have $20,000 cut out. Tell me what we're not ordering. And then let them handle it. If they want it badly enough, they'll find the $20,000. If not, it just comes out. But my markup, my profit is not going to change on at least the products that we're going to purchase. What program do you recommend in addition to Ivy to look at costs? QuickBooks. Kelly, I would also recommend QuickBooks Online, simply because the majority of bookkeepers these days that work with small businesses, they don't get up and come to your home or to your business. They do it all online. So QuickBooks Online would be where I would start. And if you need help finding your bookkeeper, please reach out. I'll be happy to connect you with mine. Beatrice, you asked the same thing. How do you find a bookkeeper? If you will just shoot me an email, I will connect you with Sherry, who is my #1 bookkeeper that understands the interior design industry. And like I said, is already working to help me connect all of my clients in with Ivy. Ted says, you're amazing. This was an amazing experience. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ted. I hope that I did add some information, something that you can think about and guide you. I would love an opportunity to help any of you. And as with Ivy, please check them out if you don't work with them. And I really think that you'll be blessed by creating a process and by creating systems that support you where you're going. If you've never read the book E-Myth, or E-Myth Revisited, I highly recommend it, because what it talks about is systematizing, creating your business as if it were a franchise. It uses McDonald's, and if you can do that, you actually gain more time in your day, so you can charge more money and work less because you're providing, just a kick in value. And my goal is to serve the socks off my clients, and I believe Ivy has the same goal, is to serve the socks off of you. So jump in there and check them. What is my email address? It's Michele with 1 L, MICHELE at Scarlet Thread Consulting, SCARLET, 1 T in Scarlet, and then threadconsulting.com. So Michele at scarletthreadconsulting.com. And feel free to reach out to me. I'll help you when I can. So Tara, I am good. I think I've answered all those questions. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Ivy or reach out to me, and we'll do what we can to help you. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye.